Is there a new secret model coming out of AI that none of us were aware of? Today, we're going to be diving into what Sam Altman has been saying over on X and a bunch of interesting things that are being said about a new alleged secret model from OpenAI. So Sam Altman recently tweeted, he said, "We trained a new model that is good at creative writing, not sure when, how, or not sure yet how or when it's going to get released. This is the first time I've been really struck by something written by AI. It got the vibe of metafiction, so right." Okay. He gave it a prompt which said, "Please write a metafictional literary short story about AI and grief." And it wrote something that was absolutely, I was very impressed by. I'll read you an excerpt of it in a minute, but just like right off the bat, I want to get Conor's thoughts on this because Conor is someone that uses AI for creative writing all the time, whether that's with his LinkedIn posts to help give him ideas or tweaks, or all sorts of things with his newsletter. So Conor, you're using AI, and typically I believe you're using Claude, is what you've told me had the best voice. What are your thoughts on this? Would you dump Claude for something like this if it was super good? Yeah, give me your first impression.
Jaeden, remember when we saw like Midjourney 5 come out and we were like, it's never going to get any better than that? You know what I mean? Like, and then all of a sudden you realize like when you see something better, you're like, oh, that's what better looks like, right? So
Yes.
I can't say for sure. So when I first saw like Claude, I think I've mentioned this before, my jaw has really only truly dropped 3 times in the generative AI era. The first was my first time with ChatGPT. My third time, to skip ahead, was Notebook LM by Google, because I was like, what is this sorcery? But then the second time was almost exactly a year ago when Claude 3 Opus came out. Or Claude Opus, I don't think it was 3 at that point. I mean, I can't remember. And my jaw hit the floor because I was like, hey, try to mimic my newsletter style. And it literally sounded like me. And even to this day, nothing can touch that. It just can't touch it. When I try to do this, I tried it with OpenAI GPT's 0.5 model, which was supposed to be much better for writing. And I didn't see it. You know what I mean? Like it just wasn't doing it. And maybe everybody has different experiences and stuff like that. But for me, it wasn't there. And so when Sam Altman says like, we have this better thing for creative writing, first of all, I take it with a grain of salt. Like, you know, OpenAI, I love the models, you and I both do, but like, it just doesn't do what I need it to do. And I just feel like, you know, if you're writing factual stuff and stuff like that, like GPT is great. But I also just want to push everybody, before going back to this tweet from Sam Altman, I would love your thoughts on this, obviously, Jaeden, about like where you think he's going with this model and what the point of this is, rather than just like pre-IPO hype or something like that. Is I still hear people that I just like really love and respect and everything else, like not really using Claude. And again, I don't want to be like, if you're not doing morning yoga, you're a loser, right? I don't want to be like that. But if you do a ton of writing, I've said this before, I work more on Claude than I do on ChatGPT. ChatGPT is my go-to for everything, just like, hey, what's going on right now? Hey, I need information on this all the time. It's like my Google search. But Claude is my writing partner, right? It's like my second brain for writing. And so the way I do this, just in case this is helpful for people, is that if I just put, by the way, first of all, folks, always use your first rough draft. Never ask AI to write the first draft. I don't care if it's junk. Just write something.
And voice to text it if you have to.
Great point. If you just voice to text, then it's not as onerous. It's just like literally just toss in what you want to say. Voice to text, and it looks like you're leaving a voice text for somebody. It's so good. And remember, it's the little microphone that's inside the ChatGPT or Claude search bar. It's not the Siri, it's not the Apple one, because that will pick up your voice and start to sort of like write out the words as you're saying them. No, this is more like a voice text. Give it some kind of rough draft, because it's way easier for AI to be an editor of your stuff rather than you to try to edit the AI out. And also you're just going to keep correcting it. So that's the biggest, if I gave people one hint on writing, that is it. However, the other big thing that I think is so critical is a lot of times people will write, let's call it a newsletter, I don't know, 3-page thing or whatever it might be. And they just say, I don't like it. Make it more this, or you didn't really nail it. No, listen, that's not what you would do with an editor. You wouldn't just say, rewrite the whole thing, or something. Like, you wouldn't do that. What you do with Claude, and what I do all the time, is I see what Claude's version is by the way, I have a version that I've already done. I use Claude for, first of all, readability. So it makes my writing way more readable, cleans up sentences, makes frameworks if I need to. But then I start taking it paragraph by paragraph. And I say, hey, look, I want this paragraph to be more like this. And it's like, how about this? I'm like, no, you're missing the point. I'm not trying to focus on that. I'm trying to focus on this. It's like, oh, well, what about this? I'm like, no, because you see how the beginning, you're starting with that. I want you to finish with that. So that takes probably like 5, 6, 7, 8 tries to get a paragraph right. But boy, oh boy, When I get that paragraph right, and then I'm like, now you got it, let's go. And then I feed in the next paragraph. Boom, it's good almost out of the gate. Feed in the next paragraph. Boom, almost out of the gate. Now, when you're working with like a 15-page document, you're like, well, why can't AI just do it? That's not what you have to remember. What you were able to do with humans, right? This is so much better. But it takes that first setting up. Take your time. Make sure it's doing the right voice, and just use it with one paragraph. Don't try to redo the whole thing, and then keep on going. And again, the reason I wanted to tell you that for two reasons. First of all, because that's how I use it for writing all the time, and it works really, really well. Think of it like a writing partner. Don't think of it as like AI is supposed to magically come out of the box and create stuff. But the second reason I say this is that if you're a writer, marketer, anything else, and you haven't found the value in Claude, I don't know. I would keep giving it more chances, because I know tons of people who use Claude for this same way. So anyway, all that is, it's a very roundabout reason, a way to get to your original question. Jaeden is like, what do we think about this? I'm sure Sam Altman is right. And looking at this post that you have up, if you're on YouTube right now, you see it. This creative writing, it's a fantastic piece of creative writing. It's way better. I'm sure there's room to improve on that too, because I've stopped saying this is the best thing it'll ever be,
Totally. Okay, I'm going to read, for anyone that's listening, I want to read you a little excerpt from this. And then also I want to get Conor's take on his initial reaction, because as you know, Conor is a New York Times best-selling author of an incredible book. And he's actually in Nepal at the origin place of his book. So this is kind of a cool time to talk about creative writing, I feel like. But right, I'll remind you the prompt. The prompt is, please write a metafictional literary story about AI and grief. And this is the first two paragraphs. It says, before we go further, I should admit this comes with instructions. Be metafictional, be literary, be about AI and grief, and above all, be original. Already you can hear the constraints humming like a server farm at midnight. Anonymous. Give me a take on that, because it nailed metafiction. Like it is the AI. It doesn't pretend to be anyone else. Give me your thoughts.
I don't know. Okay, look, I don't know how you make that better. Jaeden, I'm in a book club with all these guys from my town, and they're all like, kind of masters of the universe kind of thing, and they're all huge readers and everything else. And they're all like grading these books harshly. I was like, man, I go to 5 out of 5. Like, I couldn't do that, right? Like, and so I look at this, I'm like, I could never write that. So do you remember the early days when people were like, oh, AI can't be creative, it can't be? That's just not true. I mean, AI, if creativity is defined as taking kind of disparate ideas and combining them in new and unique ways, that's literally what AI does unbelievably well. If we say, I mean, I've seen I can't remember who it was, but some famous writer like was teaching a writing class, and he's like, I'm not going to do that anymore, because this is really good. And it's the worst it's ever going to be. It's spectacular writing. Sorry. And I mean, like, I'm sure that writers, and guys, I'm a writer by background. Like, I know, I get it. Like, it's heartbreaking for me. People say, and Jaeden, this comes to the other point. So what are we teaching kids? Should we still be teaching kids writing? I mean, yes, I think so. But I don't know if you saw, sorry, not to get way off track here, but Andrew Ng, who does, who's is he at MIT or Harvard? I can't remember, but he does like all the huge like generative AI for beginners. He's one of the great teachers on whatever. And he just came out on X the other day and said, listen, people say don't learn to code anymore, but you have to. And I'm reading that. I'm like, I don't know. Like, yes, you'll be better at understanding code, but like if it's this good now, and if the writing is this good now, I'm not saying that we should or shouldn't teach kids writing, because I think we should. I'm very passionate about it. But Jaeden, you see this, like, what are you thinking?
Well, there's a lot of thoughts I think that come up. The first one is someone says, stop trying to automate the things that make us feel alive. Find some way to automate the crap parts of our life without simultaneously hurting blah, 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 the go. Like, and you get this vibe from a lot of people. It's like, yes, it's with Midjourney. They're like, why are you automating art? Like artists. Yeah, okay. Right. I have a few thoughts about it. At the end of the day, creative people are going to be creative in all sorts of ways that make them happy. Whether or not an AI can generate a piece of art, I think doesn't actually diminish a human doing it. I have an aunt that's a phenomenal painter. And just because AI can generate the artwork that she does or similar artwork, like it still has so much value when I buy a piece of artwork and I know a human being painted this with the paint strokes on it. Like, it's different, right? It's the same reason why you would listen to this podcast versus a podcast that's purely AI generated. Even though you might get some good information, you're not going to get my anecdotes, my stories. It's the same thing with an artist. So you get all that kind of rich background, whatever. And yeah, anyways, my interesting anecdote I had on this was this week, my brother asked me if he's like, he had to go out of town. And he's like, hey, can I park my Tesla in your driveway? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Can I just drive it? And he's like, oh yeah, whatever. And it has the full self-driving on it, which I hadn't played with a lot before. And I was kind of awesome because like driving to my podcast studio is like 45 minutes away. So I just click on the address, click self-drive, and like I don't have to do anything, don't have to touch the steering wheel. It just drives the whole 45 minutes and pulls into the parking spot or whatever, into the driveway. It was crazy. What was interesting for me with that was like as it's driving, and I know you'll make fun of me for this, like I was like, this is probably how I'm supposed to drive. Like it would like really stop before an intersection. There was no rolling stops. It would like when it came around a corner, it didn't just automatically slide into the second lane because it was closer to where I was going. It pulls into the right lane and then it moves over. Anyways, it was kind of funny because I was like, I'm sure driving instructors are like, oh, Tesla self-driving AI is terrible because now no kids are going to learn how to drive. But I'm like, I literally feel like this was a better learning experience for me. I think everyone learning to drive should go through a Tesla self-driving thing because it's going to teach you how you actually should do it. So like, I think there's always going to be value in humans doing things, and we will always value another human putting like actual time and effort into something. And I think that these AIs are great ways to train us to perfect our craft, whatever that is. Yes, AI will be able to do everything, but I think there'll always be some intrinsic value in humans doing things and creating expression and sharing your own story and background in a way that I can connect with you because I know you're a person writing that, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's the thing, like we paintings can be made by robots and synthetic and printed, all that kind of stuff, but we still value the actual art. So I think we're always going to kind of value the art, although it's just, look, it's harder to tell with writing. I don't know where we're going to go with that. So Jaeden, this Tesla story is phenomenal. Listen, guys, if we want more Jaeden, by the way, he has a school community, SKOOL community, which is absolutely phenomenal. There's a lot of times where Jaeden will tell me this story like offline. I'll be like, listen, Jaeden, we got to talk about that. He's like, that's for my community. And I mean, it's like $19 a month or something like that. I don't even know what it is at this point, but anyway, it's the value on there. If you want secret Jaeden stuff is unbelievable. He now has like, when I was first talking to him about it, I'm like, he's like, yeah, it's starting to grow. And now it's exploded. So Jaeden, if you can like leave a link in the description, let's do that because guys, you got to check this out. Anyway, listen, guys, as always, thanks for tuning in. Have an amazing rest of your day.